Your characters don't just jump out of nowhere. They are part of a story. And that story cannot be told without you telling your viewers something about that character. And that something is, why are your character the way your character are? Why do your character behave the way your character behave? That has to do with his background, where he comes from, how he grew up, the pains that he felt as he grew up, the pains he have now as he is an adult or a child, the flaws that he developed as a child that went into adulthood, and the flaws he developed as an adult. That determines how your character will act and react in your story, in your film. I am Isaac, and this is How to Write Your Screenplay, a step-by-step guide. In the last episode, I spoke about a guy who beat up his wife because he needs to be in charge. But why? Where did that being in charge come from? It didn't just happen. Nothing just happens in life, not even in your life. You see, it's not just about your character doing things in your story. It's about why your character do that, how your character do it. When your character does it, do it, that's very important, because the way your character works, the way your character reacts, is determined by certain things. In the example I used about a man beating up his wife because she made more debt than he told her she should do and he can't afford to pay the payment, I said that he needed to be in charge. And he needed his wife to know that he was in charge. But why? Why did he have this need to let people know that he was in charge? What happened in his past? What happened when he grew up that made him that type of person? Maybe in the house, he could see that his mother was undermining his father, and his father had to struggle to do things. His father ended up in trouble because of what his mother did, and he don't want to go through that. So now he needs to feel that he's in charge of everything. There's so much that can determine how a character acts and reacts towards others, especially your villain and your hero. Your characters are not just characters. They are the sum total of something. But what is that something? Your characters don't just jump out of nowhere. They are part of a story. And that story cannot be told without you telling your viewers something about that character. And that something is, why are your character the way your character are? Why do your character behave the way your character behave? That has to do with his background, where he comes from, how he grew up, the pains that he felt as he grew up, the pains he have now as he is an adult or a child, the flaws that he developed as a child that went into adulthood, and the flaws he developed as an adult. That determines how your character will act and react in your story, in your film. But it is also determined by what your character have to do, have to undergo if your character needs to change in your film, in your story. If your character do not have to change, like Van Damme in most of his films, where he learned karate before the time, even before his film started. But something needed to make him to do the things he did in his films. What was that? One was his moral values. One was the way he saw life. One was the way he saw people. And another was the way how he could sum up a situation. For example, in one of his films, a woman got into a, don't know what to call it, but a shop or a restaurant or something like that, and she took out a lot of cash out of her purse to pay for something. And he saw that, and even without looking around, you could see what some of the guys in there was looking at, and they were looking at the cash the woman had. So he left the place, and when she came out, what he expected to happen, happened. The guys came out to rob her, and he stopped them from doing that. Can you see? Experience what you have learned, what you saw, tells you what your character will do, tells you what a person learned, what a person experienced, what hardships a person went through, what mistakes a person made. Tells you who that person is. Especially if that character of yours have to change in your story. So you might think now that you don't need to show why a character has flaws in your story. You don't have to show why a character goes through certain pains in your story. But those are things you need to know about your character, especially if you have to write about it in your story. Your characters are not just characters. They are people. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you will look at the things that are supposed to be important about your character. There's so much that can determine how a character acts and reacts towards others, especially your villain and your hero. And that you will find in your character's beliefs, your character's wants, your character's needs, your character's desires, your character's flaws, and your character's pains. When you look at the Joker in Batman, why did Batman have such a big problem in figuring out what the Joker wanted? Why the Joker was doing things? Of course, we saw it. The Batman did not know it. We saw how the Joker burned out a mountain of money. We saw how the Joker made two people fight for position in his organization. We heard what he said. And later we also found out why the Joker was doing it. Okay, we did not get the entire backstory of the Joker in that film. And the film that was made after that, Joker, I still believe is a film that never needed to be made. Just like I don't believe that Star Wars, Han Solo, a Star Wars story should have been made. You don't always have to show the backstory of your character in your story. But you need to let your viewers know why your character are doing the things that he or she is doing in your story, in your film. Why the Joker would burn a mountain of money? Would you burn a mountain of money? Unless, of course, the money meant nothing to you. Unless, of course, you wanted to show people that you are in charge. Like in the case of the Joker. The Joker was not out to get money. The Joker was not out to be a gang boss. The Joker had other motives. And the question is, did the Joker succeed in the end to do what he wanted to do in that story, in that film? You see, it's not just about what you want your character to do. It's about how your character goes about to reach his or her goal.